everyone. We are back with another episode of Rest is Noise. We have been talking about a little bit about European politics, and I think generally what we have been talking is how there's a trend of far right parties getting more popularity throughout the world. And we saw US election, and now we are seeing it in other countries as well. But what's interesting is Germany, because as per Sky News headline, the German election have always been a dull affair until this
Yeah.
one. And the conversation we had last week with Al Mansour was very interesting and very enlightening. After that, there were two major events that happened. One was the rally in Berlin, which was against AfD, which is a far right party, and the other one is the vehicle attack in Munich by uh, an Afghan asylum seeker who, as per the latest news and what we have seen so far from the immediate coverage, is had some Islamist extremism as his motivation. So, what do you want to say on both of these events, Tosif, and how do you see it?
So the rally seemed big. Like there are more than 100,000 people, maybe even more.
200,000
The
people, yep.
Yeah, the rally was big. And there is like in some of the discussions that you listen to, there is like there are a lot of people who are rallying behind, like unke अंदर वो realization है that they need to unite because the far right is gaining traction. So um, we are seeing a kind of a unification, not necessarily like government level पे तो अलग से, but even on the like individual level, people are kind of aligning together to be just around like it happened in France, right? When
Mhm.
the right wing party was gaining traction, like they all unified together and they said that that is like a bigger problem. Let's address that first. So the rally that happens kind of represents that the similar story playing out. The incident that happened in Munich. Um, um, yeah, so it's like so far, like you said, the details are that he there was this gathering of people, some people from labor union. They were
Yeah.
having this rally or पीछे से this Afghan guy. He was in a Mini Cooper and he just ran over like from behind. There were, I think, two casualties.
Two casualties, 37
Yeah,
injured.
yeah, 37 odd people were injured. जो initial वो उसके ऊपर reports है authorities की तरफ से है that he was maybe he had some like Islamist agenda. बट अगेन वो एक इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे था उसके लाइक
Yeah,
उस
there's
उससे
no.
जो भी चीजें उन्होंने इकट्ठी किया दे कुड नॉट लिंक इट विद लाइक any of the terror outfits या Islamic State या उससे ऐसा कोई लिंक नहीं है as such. um, the person itself like again these are like the words of authorities who are dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
case like उनके understanding के मुताबिक he was largely integrated in the society. He
Mm-hmm.
was running this Instagram page. He was like a bodybuilder. He was like he was running his Instagram page as this fitness model and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that is interesting. And then there was some motive behind because it was not some random event because I think उससे जो उन्होंने digital devices लिए हैं he was communicating with one of his contacts letting them know that they might not hear from him for a while. So again, this like um, similar kind of play out that happened in one of the previous incidents, where this, by the way, is like fifth incident
Yeah,
in last like 6 odd months. Just get under, like there are immigrants involved. इससे पहले there were I think a couple of
yeah. There
more
was one
instances.
December, which injured about 299 people.
Yeah,
That
that was
50-year-old
the
South,
Christmas one,
yeah,
right?
the
In the
Christmas
Christmas
market one.
rally.
Yeah, uh, this Saudi asylum seeker who has been outspoken critic of Islam. Basically,
Yeah,
he kind of led that.
yeah. um and there were like a bunch of instances before that. Just my ek mein, like Syrian refugee was
Yeah.
involved. So again, all of this is happening right in the middle of, we are, by the way, like less than a week away from election, like
Yes.
next Sunday by this time. So we are in Eastern. So like polling ho chuki hogi. And if we look at the polls at this point, they look kind of like stuck in the same place.
Hmm.
Like Fahad told us, the CSU, CDU, I think that was the Conservative
Yeah.
Democratic Party. They are leading at 30%, AFD is at 20%, and then the incumbents are at 15-ish%. Then there is the Green Party. So the position has been more or less the same. There hasn't been like significant impact, but like incidents like these happening right before the elections can, have a major impact. We might see like some major shift of sentiment, especially among the people. We see this kind of thing even in like elections back home in Pakistan,
Yeah.
and um, even in the US election, like last minute things can be can have like major impact. The the critical bit is that what at stake is too big, because the parties that are competing have like significant, um you can say, like policy differences which are like very significant, which
Hmm.
have like global consequences. Like to say, for example, AFD has goes like as far as like unka ek, they have this policy that they want to get out of EU.
EU.
So
Yeah.
a more like a Brexit kind of story.
Hmm.
um, and then again, immigration ke upar, they are like they want to like kind of total ban on immigration, and jo family unification plans and all of those, they want to like abandon those policies. And then even like the party that is leading the polls, they are also kind of following suit, and they also have like
Hmm.
similar kind of position immigration ko leke, because it's popular. And
Yeah.
we learned this from Fahad last week, that they actually go with whatever is trending.
Yeah.
um, so there is that bit. And then even like from the economic point of view, like all of these parties have like a different recipe to deal with what this Trump is wielding, this hammer of tariffs. uh, like all of these parties have different policy
Hmm.
response to the tariff threats. And German economy hasn't been doing great. Like it has
Hmm.
contracted in last 2 years. So this third year they are projecting like a very minute, less than a percent, I think 0.4, 0.2 growth. So given that Germany being the biggest economy and dealing with like major economic problems, the tariff threat, they already started distancing themselves from
EU,
the
yeah.
Chinese trade.
Right.
EU is more like specific to AFD, but overall German policy in the recent times have been to distance themselves from the Chinese trade,
Mm-hmm.
self-reliance. They have been like one of the major industries in Germany is the auto sector,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been seeing some serious threats from the Chinese automakers.
Yeah.
So all of that had led to them trying to like reduce their reliance on China. Um, and then there is this Ukraine story again.
Mm-hmm.
Uske upar, like every party has like have opinions on like a very wide spectrum. Like
Yeah.
there are like if they're thinking about leaving EU, if we talk about AFD, then they would want to distance themselves in all ways from
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine and wouldn't want to have anything to do with that, and wouldn't be willing to offer any economic slash
Yeah.
military assistance. So there is that position. And then if we talk about the other extreme or the other like the current incumbents, they want to like put their complete weight in Ukraine's favor and try to basically push push Ukraine towards victory. Like the the statement that they use is that Ukraine cannot lose, and I think for like CSU CDU goes even further, and they say that Putin must lose.
Yeah.
So again, wide differences, and um, some of these recent events can have like a significant impact in deciding the outcome of the election, and the outcome of the election in turn has the like given these polarized policy choices can have like drastic consequences not just for the region but the rest of the world.
I think I do understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, what I'm seeing, what's interesting is the US interest in German elections. Recently their vice president visited and he met the AFD candidate for the chancellor. Um, he also very openly talked about the AFD's right to have the opinions that they are having,
Hmm.
and the firewall shouldn't be put out for the far right parties. Um,
Yeah.
you see Elon Musk being pretty much in that favor, as we know, there's
Yeah, he
that
endorsed
surface.
that. I think
Yeah.
he has been retweeting that over and over.
Um, what's interesting is that there was, I think, some like debate between the candidates, and there was some at some point the CDU agreed at something with AFD candidate, and there's a lot of outcry. There are interviews from people who were at Berlin rally, and they see it as something they have seen before. They have learned it from history. They say that this kind of polarization was there when Hitler came in power. And I think we talked about it in last episode as well, that it's highly motivated by nationalism. And
Hmm.
we know from like the history, whatever Hitler was doing, the fascism was motivated by nationalism.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very interesting election to watch, um, partially because they have a very interesting history, but at the same time, um, I think there's a lot we will see how, because once you get extremely motivated by nationalism, we are seeing the Trump policies, right?
Yeah.
Everything just become like, oh, this person is using me, this country is using me, and that country is using me, and then you kind of, and if you go to Germany, uh, in Europe, uh, it's kind of one country that has, um, they have like a very good tech sector. They
Yeah.
they are politically very stable. Um, they very clean as a country, like, and there's like a
Yeah, they're
lot of,
like you can say that they're like the leading innovators out of
yes.
Europe, clearly,
So yeah,
by far.
so uh, you can find like a calm and stability in Scandinavian countries, but you do not, like, the weather is very bad. Then you go on this side, where it's like France, Belgium, and even Netherlands, they're not that stable. Um, and I think that kind of give them that edge that they are AFD is playing right now, is that, oh, we are. It gives you a good ground to start playing that. Oh, we are better than everybody else, so why we are taking that? Um, so I don't know. There's one thing that bit that's interesting to me, and I want to hear what you think about it. Is, do you think, uh, it's a bit loaded question, but do you think really religion-based extremism is different than just extremism?
Um, no, not necessarily. It's just it's just like a question of where did that thing come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
The eventual outcome is not going to be good. So like whether it's an extremist who was like fed this religious agenda over and over for years and brainwashed, that culminates into something disastrous like the instances we see. And then we have like similar, like there could be like other instances as well, like even there are kind of cases to be made, there has been kind of extremist choices made by some of the states as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it necessarily uh, I mean, it all depends, like like the origin of thing, but the thing itself is the same, right? It never culminates in anything good. And um yeah, that's my that's my opinion about the question that you make. But one thing that I missed when I covered the so the consequential is the word that I'm attaching
Mm-hmm.
to these elections, and talking about consequences, another major, against again like a wide policy difference between the leading candidates here is on
Mm-hmm.
energy. Like there is, like Germany has this, like उनके साथ ये बदनामी attached है कि they started decommissioning these nuclear powers in
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
1980s, and they led till 2011, and so, and then Fukushima was like the final giveaway, and then they absolutely ramped up and moved ahead with it. And again, out of these players, like the CSU, CDU, they are willing to, they are open to idea of nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Similar, and then there is AFD who wants to like roll back like all these carbon based policies and everything, so absolutely like no regard for the climate
Mm-hmm.
situation. And then the incumbents are again still against the nuclear. AFD, by the way, is like all in favor of like going full throttle on the coal power generation. So again, like what the people on the, like kind of aligning with the people on the right wing
Mm-hmm.
generally across the globe. So yeah, again, in all three, like foreign relations, economy, as well as climate, in all of these three domains, like a very consequential election and something that can have like long lasting impact.
So, as we saw until now, I don't think the collusion sounds like a good idea for CDU to with AFD, right? Because they're so
Yeah, they are not
different.
aligned. Yeah,
Yeah,
they so
they every single thing, like a major policy decision, they do not align on any one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Fahad said, highly likely they're all gonna, like, even if they have to, they're all gonna unite together to go against the AFD
Hmm.
and try to form the government. So yeah, but so like Fahad mentioned in the last episode, the major, like, what's like why this has been so important is all of a sudden like AFD has been polling around 20%. That
Yeah.
has been unusual. Whereas previously it was more like sub 10%, like close to
Hmm.
5-6%. So that is like the major issue. So for example, even they do not form the government, they will become the opposition, right?
Yeah.
And we have seen, like, even in like our country Pakistan, like when there are like 7-8 parties or 3-4 players form a government together and they have like a
It's a
strong
weak government.
opposition, it gets really difficult to
Yeah.
keep things moving.
Okay, so hopefully, we will, by the time we get this episode out, we would also have German election results closing in.
Yeah, highly likely. Yeah.
So let's move to the next topic, which is asteroids. So apparently, that's how we started, I think, as Earth. So something hit us, and
Asteroid. Yeah.
yeah, and dinosaurs died, and somehow it started everything that we know now.
Yeah.
Um,
um yeah, so have you been following that story? Like the news
I
came out.
yeah. So the thing is that news is being up there for years right now, right? That they are so there is the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, where usually the asteroids are, and they could be in millions, and sometimes they move from that belt and they come
Into the
closer to the
inner solar system. Yeah.
yeah, and we start hearing that okay, there is some thing going on. So um, very interesting fact is I did my PhD in Earth and Space Sciences,
Mm-hmm.
which has very little connection to computer science, which I had my bachelor's and master's in. But well, my application domain was AI. But we shared the department with astronomy department, and there were a lot of work being done. Also, my previous employer, there was a lot of stuff we were doing with NASA and stuff. And York has historically the oldest astronomy department in North America. They
Mm-hmm.
have collaborated with NASA on Mars rover and everything. So we would get these very interesting point cloud samples coming from asteroids. So we have gone through those data sets, and some of them are very interesting. There's actually a project by MIT, NASA, and there are two other companies involved in it. Um, I'm not naming them, just was being associated with them. So um, they were trying to get the samples from the asteroid that hit us a million years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they got those samples and they were basically going through the research and what minerals it brought, what it didn't, what we had done. So
Right.
there's always been something like that in the news, and we're going through, even if I don't pay attention, there's always passive news coming from Europe, which is like, okay, this is happening. So there's always this one asteroid that's like, oh, it's close, it's gonna hit us, but we don't know when.
Right.
And then you sent
um
me that article, so I want you to go ahead on it.
yeah, so YR4 is what they're calling it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It got discovered this last Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so Christmas, and now we are in February. Like all of a sudden, why is it in news? Because at that point when it was discovered, they ran some analysis. So by the way, how do we find out asteroids? There is like just like the visual method where
Yeah.
we get images, we put like a series of images together, and then we play it like in frames, and we see, is there anything moving? If
Mm-hmm.
there is something moving, then we say, okay, it is that, and we we basically estimate their orbit from that. And
Mhm.
again, it is an estimation. And even if you have like a sample of like few months, you don't know clearly कि longer term में इसका orbit क्या है, but you have the rough idea कि ये
Mhm.
क्या है. Um, so they discovered this asteroid YR4. Initially, it was assigned a chance of 1.2%
Mhm.
of hitting Earth in 2032. Why is it in news? Is because all of a sudden the probability jumped up.
Yeah.
It doubled to 2.3. So 2.3 is like 1 in 45%. So 1 in 45 chances that it's gonna hit the Earth in 2032. Where is it
That.
gonna hit? We don't know. We will need to analyze it more. And the thing is that I'll try to put the graphic.
Mhm.
Um, there is this bigger orbit in which the asteroid is moving, and the
Mhm.
Earth is moving like close in a smaller orbit, and they are like close to each other.
Okay.
But they're gonna be at a distance after April. So April tak ka time hai in which we can study it
Mhm.
and try to get like a better sense. Whatever estimates we make till then, it will then have to wait till 2028
Yeah.
when it again completes its orbit and it's again really close to the Earth. So by that time, we'll have a much better idea कि इसकी trajectory क्या है, and like what's the possibility of it hitting the Earth, if is it going to hit the Earth, and if yes, when and where. So those are like the most important questions. um so why is it like, so again the probability is still on the lower side. There is a high chance that it's gonna be a near miss and not hit, but that like whenever it happens, it gives us like an opportunity and kind of like a wake up call to look into these events. Because so asteroids in general, like they are hitting Earth all the times. Like every day we get hit by like 4,000 ton of these rocks, but they're so
Mhm.
small that there is no impact. They try to enter the Earth's atmosphere and they just evaporate.
Mhm.
um, but there is a problem with these bigger ones. So in the history, when we look at, so the most famous one was like the one that hit 65 million years ago, that when the dinosaurs were around. So that was like close to like 10 kilometer.
Mhm.
Those are like called the planet killers.
Mhm.
So when they hit, um, like majority of the life will cease to exist after that event. There are like centuries of cold and sun not able to reach the Earth due to like the atmosphere covered by smoke and dust and
Mhm.
cloud and whatnot. So all the vegetation dies, and you can imagine like the consequences that it can have. Now that is like a 10 kilometer one. And then we have had some instances like there is this crater in Arizona, I think. It
Mhm.
was formed as a result of like an asteroid colliding, that was against like 500,000
Mhm.
years old story. um but one, like there are a few instances that have been in our lives.
Yeah, the
There
Siberia one.
Yeah, so that is also an interesting one. But in 2013, and like actually 13th February 2013, so more like 80, like 12 years ago,
Mhm.
uh, there was this Chelyabinsk meteor. There is a video of it on YouTube. Like you
Mhm.
can check. It's very interesting that. Um, And again, it was in that time that everyone had a cell phone and there were cameras around, so it got captured. Like there is this bright thing entering into the atmosphere. It catches fire, um, gets brighter than the sun, generate like a huge amount of heat, so much that people actually felt it. It was in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, and then it just vanished, and people thought that, okay, what was it? People started asking each other. That was interesting because we never discovered that. Like that was the asteroid that NASA never saw, and it was not on their radar. The interesting
Oh, that's
thing is
interesting.
there was another asteroid that was projected to miss the Earth that very day. NASA did see that, and we did see that actually missing the Earth. But on that very day, another asteroid that we totally missed entered the Earth's atmosphere, evaporated. So after the event, people went to their windows and doors, and they were actually looking at it. But what they missed was that when this explosion happened, there was going to be a shock wave. So the
Oh.
shock wave actually did hit, but after 30 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
and it blew up like the doors and windows and injured many people in the process. There are lots of videos of it. It's
The city of Chelyabinsk was unlucky to be beneath the meteorite's flight path and was showered with debris dropping from the sky. Thousands of windows were smashed. Shocked workers evacuated their offices. This school class is about to be interrupted by the shockwave. Here, the windows come crashing in, and a national judo squad runs for cover. Canadian hockey star Michael Garnett plays for the Chelyabinsk team and lives in the city.
I was awakened by this loud bang and crash and shaking in my apartment that literally shook me out of bed. And I kind of gathered myself and I went and looked out the window, and I saw this giant streak across the sky. That was the tail of the meteor.
The last minutes of the meteorite's journey were captured by hundreds of cameras as it crossed central Russia at a speed of around 20 miles a second, briefly casting a shadow over communities below before passing on. CCTV in this office recorded the moment its journey ended. People on the ground have been injured, most cut by flying glass. The Russian authorities say there's no lasting danger, though. Radiation levels in the area are normal. But no one who witnessed this visitor from space in its final moments is ever likely to forget it.
moving at such large speed. This one is moving at like 17 kilometers per second.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they like, if they are at like a massive distance, if you change its path by even a little, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna have like a huge deviation like at a longer distance. So that was the intent, and that mission was successful. They were able to hit the asteroid. So will NASA be preparing for that? I think it will become clear around 2028 when we have like better assessment of what the trajectory is, and if the odds keep going up uh, of it hitting the Earth, then I think we will start a lot of these space agencies moving, and then there will be like there is going to be this massive debate about who's going to finance that and everything, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. I'm not sure even if if we will have like a clearer picture in 2028 about where it's gonna hit. It
Mm-hmm.
could be ocean if it's near at a coastal area. It could lead to a tsunami or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all of those are the threats that posed by it, and we are just kind of wait and watch kind of mode at this
Mm-hmm.
point. We'll have a better picture in 2028, and 2032 is where it is projected to be like absolutely close to the Earth. That's the event that we're looking at.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is, uh, that the mission that NASA did, does it include changing the path for even the bigger asteroids?
Yeah, so that mission was solely to demonstrate that we have the power to
Okay.
target these things. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So the second question I have is, which in a lot of ways, it's, I don't know, is it my science fiction brain doing this, or it's something I've read somewhere is coming from, is, do we consider breaking these asteroids?
Yes, that does not work
Mm-hmm.
because so again the studies that they ran,
Mm-hmm.
the studies that they ran in trying to come up with the possible solutions, like the ideas there were as wild as wrapping these things in an aluminum foil and bombard it with the lasers, right? So all theoretically all the ideas were explored. So trying to break this thing, the problem with that is when this thing is moving, if you try to, let's say theoretically, if we explore that you spray it with a giant laser,
Mm-hmm.
so it keeps disintegrating, but all of those rocks are still like following each other's gravitational pull, right?
Yeah, okay.
So it's gonna break apart and then pull together again due to their gravity and
Mm-hmm.
become like this lump of a lot of rocks.
So it's gonna do the same thing, just okay.
Maybe even worse. It will
Worse,
only
yeah.
make it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting because what I understood so far is that whatever they're saying is that it could go to literally zero probability that nothing is going to happen, but at the same time it kind of make me think is, yeah, we know about this one, but we don't know about the next one, right? If it's not going to hit us, so there has to be some uh way of figuring it out, that how we can avoid such an event.
Yeah, so the problem with these is, so they have like tracked like hundreds of thousands of these and they have
Mm-hmm.
named them. They are called like the near Earth objects.
Mm-hmm.
But again, how do we detect them? The only way for us is the visual
Visual,
evidence.
yeah.
And the ones that we miss are the ones that are never illuminated by the sun, so that are
Mm-hmm.
coming towards us from a direction opposite to the sun. So
Okay.
they are like absolutely dark, no reflective surface, so they do not get seen at all. That was the story that happened in 2013 in Russia.
Okay. That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Tosif. I think that's been an interesting story. I think we should little bit follow through on some space stories.
Hmm.
uh, अच्छा, अब तीसरी स्टोरी पे आ जाते हैं, जो कि है the Gaza ceasefire story.
Hmm.
So I think it's third, fourth episode that we've been talking about Gaza, and so I'm gonna address a little bit of something here. Is that what has been happening in last couple of days. So we knew that there were things happening since 7th October. आपके पास Israel actually broke hell on Gaza. आपके पास बड़े लोगों की deaths होती हैं. There's a lot happened after the Hamas attacked Israel, and आपके पास finally, before the Trump gets into the White House, आपके पास एक ceasefire plan layout होता है. Hamas and इसराइल एग्री करते हैं. आपके जो मीडिएटर्स हैं वो उसको पे विटनेसेस होते हैं. आपके पास कतर, जॉर्डन, इजिप्ट, दे ऑल सिट ऑन द टॉक्स. अब उस वो सीज़फायर प्लान 3 उसके फेजेस थे. फर्स्ट में आप जो है यू रिलीज विमेन सोल्जर्स. सेकंड फेज में यू लेट द एड इन. थर्ड फेज में ये था कि जी यू स्टार्टेड डूइंग टू somehow build up. Second phase में था you start building up Gaza, and third phase is who's gonna be ruling Gaza. And usually the question was कि जो आपका third phase है that's gonna start problems, क्योंकि Israel and US wants Hamas nothing to do with it. and they're also not willing to let Palestinian Liberation Party to take over. तो आपके पास दो ये major concerns थे. But at the same time, a lot of people who are from Palestine or who have had a close eye on Gaza far before 7th October 2023 has been saying this, that this ceasefire might not last. And the reason being, Israel always have violated the ceasefire. So there's a history of it. And it's not that Hamas have not, they have as well. But in this specific case, Hamas told them very initially that if Israel violates the ceasefire plan, we are not going to let it move ahead. Among all of this, आपके पास Trump gives this statement where he says that we have to move Palestinians out of Gaza to start rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Which aggravated everybody, everywhere. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of outcry that you really don't move people out of their homes. It's not a real estate. There is a push on Egypt and Jordan to take people in if they want the US aid to continue. And they need to open their borders. As per the conversation I have with some people in Jordan and Egypt, both, they're not willing to. And understandably so, because we have been on that receiving end. We have been part of situation where we had one refugees for years and years. When something like this happened, it's very hard to provide them services that you want to do. There's also very hard to contain them. They are coming from war-torn places, so there's a lot of mental and physical traumas attached to it. But there's a huge, huge push on Middle Eastern countries, especially Jordan and Egypt, to take the Palestinian people in while they don't want to go. There's one thing they're trying to do is क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा लोग injured हैं, so they are going into Egypt and Jordan to get them healthcare, and they are planning to shut borders and put patrolling agencies there to not let people back in. अब इस सारी situation के दौरान Israel attacked Gaza again. 3 people died. And Hamas said that they will stop releasing the hostages. Now, what you look at this right now in the media is that they are running with the idea that Hamas is not keeping up their side of the bargain. They are not releasing the hostages. And they've been given a deadline, which is by end of today.
Yeah.
To start releasing. If they don't, the next week they will start attacking Gaza again.
Yeah, so I saw Trump's tweet. I think so I didn't know. So today is the deadline.
Yes.
And if the hostages are not released, I think Trump mentioned that they are like in talks with Israel, and Israel will be given like an open hand to deal with it the way they want.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the situation. So we are okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So it should have ended, but I have not seen any update just yet. From like few minutes before the meeting, before we started recording, I started looking into it, but I could not find the latest update. But yes, so their defense minister, though they're all meeting on Monday in Egypt. So they're all meeting in Cairo on Monday. Netanyahu's office has confirmed that they are going for the conversation. They're going to talk about the plan. Hamas has also confirmed that they are also going in. So currently, Jordan and Egypt are in the worst position.
So they're being forced to take the refugees, right?
Yes. They are being forced to take refugees. The
And the
refugees
reason is the reason is that stupid statement that Trump made, that they want to go ahead with this plan, that by the way was like so insane that on that very day when Trump gave that statement, I think it was like early morning in
yeah,
Saudi Arabia, and they released a statement right away, like
yeah,
3 a.m. in the morning or something. And we have seen like similar kind of reaction across the board. So that is basically US, or I would actually go further, Trump unilaterally pushing that plan, right?
yes. What is interesting, there are two bits are very interesting. One is that from whatever I have been able to grasp, is even the Zionists in Israel, not the far right, could not understand the statement like this. Even for them, it was just such a biggest blow of it's like, how could you put it out there? Because the
Yeah.
the thing with this is that, and it's not a conspiracy, or it's not something that we are saying it without basis. There are ads run by real estate companies
Mm-hmm.
talking about how prime the Gaza's location is.
Right.
And now that you're saying that to build this, you need to get these people out.
Yeah.
Um, so next day, the Trump government representative were so confused how to handle the whole situation, because he made this a statement. None of his Middle East advisors knew this before he made this a statement. They all
Yeah.
said they had no idea. They
Right.
all said that's the first time they heard it
Hmm.
when he said it.
Hmm.
What they are trying to defend it as, while he is not helping them much, while they're trying to defend it with that this, because his his Middle East advisor went to Israel and Palestine. He went to Gaza. He came back, and he
Mm-hmm.
was largely impacted by the devastation there. And he
Right.
said that it's not livable.
Yeah.
They destroyed everything.
Right.
And they say that when he heard it, he thought that the only way is to rebuild it for them and give it to them.
Right.
So that's what their answer to whatever he said it is.
So
Um,
there is a confusion. There is not even an intent to give it back to them. So the kind of language that he has been using is that they will like rebuild it, and then he said something like Palestinians will be moved, and then there was a question like who's gonna who's gonna own that place, and he said like people.
yes,
So that was the kind of language, so it sounded more like he actually want to, so trying to make sense of those sentences, it felt like he wants to like push the people in Gaza uh into like an even smaller portion of it, and
yeah.
the rest of it they want to they want to probably private businesses and people to build and then own it. So that's what actually it sounded like. It
It
sounds outrageous, and that was the reaction that we got, but I'm not sure exactly what he meant.
Yeah, so that's the thing, because there's also a version of it which where he's saying that Gaza should be handed to United States of America, and we will do the rebuilding.
Right.
So he's, in a lot of ways, he's kind of implying that they will colonize Gaza.
Right.
And I don't think it's a very good statement to come out in 2025 where you're like, yeah, we are imperialist. Give us this land and kick these people to other countries.
Right, but it's not surprising, right? Because
Oh, definitely not.
when the president is like, they have basically shoved this Gulf of America down people's throat,
Yeah.
and then the distance they were willing to go to an extent where Trump was actually calling uh, the Danish officials and discussing the possibility of the takeover of Greenland.
Yes.
So, and then this repeated rhetoric about Canada becoming the 51st state of the America. So it's like right in his brain. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, so we don't know what's gonna happen next. I mean, we know that the imperial form of government has existed. We know there are bases of US all over the world. We know how the pop culture propagated throughout the world through that.
Right.
So let's see what happens. I'm keeping a close eye on the situation, and when we have some new updates, we will definitely discuss it.
Sure, sure. Interesting. Very, very, very volatile. And given Trump, it's like I think his staff is as worried as the rest of the world is. Like
They are.
they do not know what will hit them the next day.
Because let's be real, right? When you're working with somebody who is thought to be your boss and you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know if you're on the same page or not, you go into a meeting, you're presenting something and they start saying something else, you maybe the first meeting you're like, maybe I didn't know. Maybe I didn't understand. The second meeting you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should try to have more meetings. And third meeting you're like, oh, this guy is really have no idea. He's not gonna let me in. He's coming up with these ideas on this part. And that makes your job really, really hard. So I
Yeah,
completely understand.
it runs by the way. So I am not surprised. Like I always thought that like at some point, um it might come up, but I always felt that it will probably in this like third tier of the government somewhere, like
Hmm.
some low level government official would probably say such a thing. But in there, like while Biden was president, there was this discussion that with Jared Kushner that I heard.
Hmm.
So he was proposing that idea that, by the way, some of these American economists, they had like they have this massive disconnect from the realities and politics of the world. They were like outright praising him that how innovative and out of the thought out of the box ideas Jared Kushner has. And
Yeah,
Jared Kushner was presenting this idea of it would create it would become like a great uh beach front, and you can build residential blocks, and you
yeah,
can build like I mean the similar kind of stories that we actually see in Pakistan, where koi laguna bana raha hai and DHAs
yeah,
and so that kind of thinking. But I and Jared Kushner at that time, by the way, was their Middle East guy,
yeah,
very close with even the Saudis at that time. But after Trump's first term, I thought that that is just his crazy ideas. Maybe Trump is just done with him, and we are not gonna see like any of that stupidity again. And then again, stupidity is coming right out from
out
Trump this
from,
time.
yeah. So
Insane.
it is insane. And we really don't know. I think we have a plan to cover a lot of tariff stories and everything in the next
Yeah,
episode. So I'm really looking
sure.
forward to it. Thank you so much, Tosif. It
No
was
problem.
lovely talking to
Thanks.
you.
Thanks likewise. Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too.